Which one is better? Which one's the best? Well, that gets complicated. Just because I like the DMPA6 from Eversolo, does that make me wrong if you like the Wiim Ultra better? If you like the Eversolo and I like the Wiim, does that mean I'm wrong? Are we both wrong? Are we both right? I don't know. This sounded a lot better last night when I was writing it down, but now none of it makes any sense to me. I figured out. These are probably the two hottest audio products of last year and this year. They are streamers, and they're streamers with a screen. And for whatever reason, that makes a big deal. It makes a big deal to me. DMPA6 has a whole bunch of connections, inputs, outputs on the back. The Wiim Ultra has a whole bunch of inputs and outputs on the back, and they're not the same. Therefore, I'm going to go through a bunch of different categories. Let's see. Price, connections and outputs, internal features, ease of use, how they sound, and my overall pick. So strap in, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about which one of these streamers, the Eversolo DMPA6 or the Wiim Ultra, is the best. The Eversolo DMPA6 comes in at $869. The Wiim Ultra comes in at $330. So if you're buying on price alone, unless you want to spend more money, the Wiim Ultra wins this category at $329. And since the Wiim wins and we can't ever have just two winners, it means that Eversolo fails. Connections and outputs. The Eversolo has balanced and single-ended RCA connections. The Eversolo also has digital outputs with a digital coaxial or a digital optical. Also has a fully functioning DAC, so it has USB input, coaxial input, optical input, USB 3 something, which I don't really understand. Then you have an HDMI output, which again, don't know what the use case would be. Put it in the comments if you know what the use case would be for an HDMI out. Then you got gigabit, LAN, all that stuff, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi connectivity. The Wiim. Here, you have one of the most important things, in my opinion, an HDMI ARC input. Then you have a USB right here for some type of thumb drive. You have an optical input and optical output if you want to bypass the internal DAC. You have a ground over here for a phono stage, subwoofer output, coaxial output, one RCA input, one RCA output. And that's about it. Both have internal power supplies. So who wins the connections? Depends. Depends what you're using. If you want to hook up this device or this device to your television, well then the Wiim wins. If you want to hook up to your balanced amplifier, well then the Eversolo wins. If you need an HDMI output, then the Eversolo wins. Eversolo has more options, but the Wiim has more usable options with a subwoofer out and an HDMI arc in. Even though I have my own opinions, I'm going to call this a tie.
Winner!
Internal features, the internal struggle. The Wiim has room correction, it has parametric EQ, it has a whole bunch of stuff. Bass management. The Eversolo has a whole bunch of filter roll-offs, a whole bunch of different things, and it works off of an Android operating system, which confuses and confounds me, which those may mean the same thing. Even though I got into the Eversolo and started poking around a bit for this video and then the original video, there's a lot of options, and I'm sure there's a bunch of options I'm not talking about. Also put it in the comments if you own the Eversolo. For me though, the internal options with the usable parametric EQ, with the usable room correction, with the graphic EQ, and the subwoofer output and bass management, for me, the Wiim wins the internal features over the Eversolo. But it might be a different application. If your application is strictly 2-channel listening, then the Eversolo might be for you. Either way, put it in the comments whether you like the Wiim or the Eversolo for feature set inside.
Winner!
Build quality. They're both good. They're both heavy. I thought the Eversolo was going to be way heavier, but I think they actually weigh the same. And this one's like heavy on this end, which I think obviously, yeah. The power supply is on this end. If I had to pick a winner, it would be the Eversolo, slightly. But don't think the Wiim isn't built well.
Winner!
I'm not going to candy coat this one. The Eversolo DMPA6 sounds better. Sounds like a higher end DAC because it is a higher end DAC. Here's the interesting part. They both have the same DAC inside. However, the Eversolo has 2 DAC chips. So one DAC chip is handling each of the channels. That's why they can have balanced output, because each DAC chip can handle 2 channels. Well, balanced. Okay? Okay. How do they sound? Personally, I think the DMPA6 sounds a little bit better. More exacting, cleaner, better instrument separation, and that could come down to the power supply. Just think of the Wiim kind of sounding similar, but there's just a little bit more background noise going on. It's like your AC kicked on in your house. They both sound great, though. Eversolo, just a little bit cleaner. Touch cleaner.
Winner!
When I first started this video, I thought it was just going to be a comparison between 2 streamers, one of which was going to be better for a specific person. But the more I got into this is really kind of an apples and oranges comparison. They both kind of do the same thing, but if I had to define the ethos of each product, the Eversolo DMPA6 is basically a DAC with a streamer in it. The Wiim Ultra is a preamp with a streamer in it. For the purists out there, I think the DMPA6 is probably going to be the right choice for you. For the more casual 2-channel listener who wants to bring in television, then the Ultra obviously is the one for you. If you're on a budget, then the Ultra is obviously the one for you. If you're a little bit older like me and you don't like fiddling with all the endless options in the Eversolo DMPA6. Sorry, I couldn't get through that very well. If you're dumb like me, the Wiim is for you. Even if you're smart, the Wiim's probably going to be for you. It's just easier to use, and if something's easy to use, you're going to use it. From Tidal Connect, Spotify Connect, to the room correction, to the EQ settings. It's just way easier to use. The app is seamless. Yes, Eversolo has like a screen mirroring thing, which you can use to change settings and things, but there's so many different settings. But the Eversolo sounds a little bit better. But at $330, which is way less than half, you could buy an external DAC for the Wiim come in at the same price and have a better sounding streamer / preamp. You could buy something like a Just Chalet Labs J2, the AKM 4493, or if you wanted to spring a little bit, you get the 4499 edition. What I'm saying is I think the Wiim is easier to use. It sounds almost as good. It's so much cheaper that you can make it sound better than the Eversolo. If you get a DAC that has swappable op amps, then you can change the sound even more, even though the Eversolo already comes with really nice op amps. It's OPA something 1612s or something like that. They both sound great, okay? I just think the Wiim fits in more people's lives. More people's lives, it's cheaper, all that good stuff. And it's the one that I choose to listen to. The Ultra is in every system that I use from now on. I had to think, did I give the DMPA6 away? When I was getting ready to do this video, I'm like, do I even have it anymore? That's how much I use the Eversolo DMPA6. What do you think, though? Which one do you think is better? If you like this video, then you should check out my video on the Outlaw Amplifier 2160. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe, please.